Your next gig, it's built on years, not likes. You're grinding, you're networking, you're putting out music, but here's the brutal truth. One bad move, one missed payment, one burned bridge, and years of work can vanish. Because in this industry, reputation's everything. It's not just about talent, it's about trust. But how do you build that trust? How do you know who to trust? And what if you've already made mistakes? Can you recover? The pressure to get ahead fast can make you cut corners, but those shortcuts will always catch up to you. But there's a way to build a reputation that lasts, a network that supports you, and a career that thrives on genuine connections. In this video, I'm going to share Jason Euler's powerful approach to building trust and playing the long game. Because your next big break isn't about instant fame, it's about the foundation you build today.
You know, everyone always says actions over words. And sure, that's great. What I think is intentions over actions over words, because I look at someone's intention. What is their intention behind doing this? What's the thing that's making them tick to want to drive this forward? I'm a psychology major coming out of school. So, for me, it's behavior. And, you could have a bad intention, and just because you don't take the action on it right then and there doesn't mean that the intent wasn't malicious or poor. So I really just try to look at people's intentions. And I think the biggest thing and why it goes back so hard to relationships is the first thing you do before you go work with someone or go on, you're going to vet them. You're going to reach out to other people that you've seen work around, especially in the music industry or even in the partnership and sponsorship world. I'm going to make if I go to manage an artist, I'm going to make 5 to 10 calls to people I know have seen you, worked around you. I'm going to get a gauge on you as a person. And it goes back to even when I was getting recruited for Division I college baseball, they were going and reaching out to my teachers and professors and past coaches. How is he off the field? Is he going to be an issue in there? Is he out partying every weekend? How's he going to be in the clubhouse? Is he a good teammate? So I think at the end of the day, when you're going to make a decision to go work with someone, you're going to vet them and go do that. So, I really try to have my conversations with them, ask a lot of questions, get to the root of their intentions. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to go do my homework and find out who else you've worked with and how you've been. And I'm going to reach out to people I trust from relationships I've built. And I think that's really where I lean into to establish that trust.
That's huge. And it goes back to the reputation and being a good person.
Reputation precedes you.
Yeah. And it's such a small industry. I mean, we chatted for 5 minutes before this and how many mutual contacts, oh, you just talked to that person. I just talked to that person. It's crazy. You never realize how small it is until you kind of first get into the bubble. And I feel lucky that I was and I think this is the case for most DJs. I was a fan for so long and kind of integrated with my local scene to get an understanding of that. But you learn things that surprise you, oh, the person who I thought was the decision maker actually isn't. Things like that where
you can put a false front out on social media, put a thing in your bio, and you can make the storefront, and the facade look good. But ultimately, the more you get into, you're oh, that person actually calls the shots or pulls the levers or things like that. That gets flushed out really quickly once you're actually, there's a difference between being in the scene and being in the industry.
Right.
Once you step into the industry, you start to realize those things for sure. And you have to lean into the intangibles, and I hate to keep going back to sports, but you can measure for baseball, you can measure how far someone can hit a ball, how hard someone can throw, how fast they can run. But you have to be able to measure, you can't measure heart. And you hit the nail on the head of just holding that reputation. You could spend years of paying your bills on the right time, doing the right thing, always being good to people. And it takes 5 minutes to literally undo 5 years worth of work. And I see that happen, unfortunately. And we see it so much in our industry with, someone will make a bad decision on one night and undo years of something they built, so it comes down to just committing to doing the right thing, being right by people. And, I can't tell you how many times I'd lose on a show so bad. And I would sit there and I'm going to scrap to pay this bill. I am not going to be known as the guy who doesn't pay his bills by any means at all.
Yeah. It's so important. And I think too, I'm not the only house music podcast that's out there. There's been more and more popping up, which I love to see. But what I'm seeing this as is this is a trend towards artists should be keeping in mind that they're going to need a PR strategy. They should be incorporating that into their marketing, their overall just plan, their branding plan, because with these podcasts and interviews, there's more opportunities for artists to have these types of conversations.
And the thing I'll elaborate on just a little further is, if you're giving someone something with the expectation of getting something in return, you are not truly giving. I approach everything to give value, and I have no expectations for anyone to give me anything in return at all. I am just giving to give, because that is who I am, and that's how I've built my relationships over the years. Now, what's happened in that mindset is, have things turned around and come back to help me in the long run? 110%. Sometimes it happens immediately. Sometimes it happens 2 or 3 years later. I can't tell you how many times like I helped someone back in like 2017 or 2018, and we're in 2025, and it has come full circle and like now wound up helping me on a project just because I lent a hand to someone back then. It happens so much. But again, like, give value, do your research on how to give value, and give without expectation of anything in return.
Yes, it's so true. The long game is something that people do not understand, because, you know, we're in the era of virality and wanting things immediately and Amazon and whatever. And it does trickle into relationships. 100%. And it's like, you don't realize you're putting chips in the bucket for something, like you said, to come back 2 years later. And it's like all of a sudden, and it's not just relationships, but it's also reputation.
One, yes, I want to love the music, but like, I don't love you as a person, or like then your art goes out the window to me. And I think that's why like something long form like this is so great, because you really get a chance to dive in, see the mindset, character, and like the characteristics of that human being. And, you know, at the end of the day, yes, we all want to support good art. Like, I think what everyone strives to support more is good humans. And so I couldn't agree with you more. You have to have that strategy and get yourself as a person out there. Like, at the end of the day, for artists, like, your art is 20% of your project. And like, even at this point, I'm like, I think that's a gracious statistic, where like 80% is who you are, your brand, your storytelling, and how can you connect with the listener at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, with so many options out there, you really have to compel people to choose you. And that's the case.
8,000 to 100,000 songs uploaded to Spotify a day. How do you separate yourself?
Yep. And it is about how you can connect with an artist.